Welcome to the Water Wisdom Podcast, where we get inspired by the movers and shakers of the world, those catalyzing change just like water.
Welcome, everyone, to the Water Wisdom Podcast. I am so honored to introduce to you today an amazing, beautiful gem named Maia Chrystine Nartoomid. She has a very beautiful, unique life story to share with us. And before we get into that, we're going to do our usual. If you have something to drink, hopefully water, grab your water. We know that water is the best conduit. The codes are going to be flowing during this podcast. We want to amplify all of them with our beautiful water so that we can soak in all of the magic that this conversation has to offer us. So get comfy. We've got some magic to share with you. Maia, how are you today?
I'm fine. Thank you, dear. I'm so happy to be on your show and look at your bright smile.
Oh, thank you so much. And ditto. I absolutely see myself in you. And I want to share a little bit about that before we dive into your beautiful story.
Okay.
So I found Maia on YouTube on her channel, Blue Star Rising, maybe 3 years ago. And I was led to her, I believe, because of the connection that I have with a familiar energy that is Thoth, which is in a little box defined by many as a Egyptian energy, but is far more expansive than that. And we will get into that. So let me tell you a little bit about that story. When I first started my conscious awakening journey, this was about 5 years ago. And I was led very deeply to Egyptian energies, one of those energies being Isis, as I am a healer. And Isis took me into this beautiful portal and reminded me of some of my amazing healing gifts. And then I was led to the divine energy of Thoth. He would come to me in my meditations, and he would come to me in the form of beautiful birds, in particular, the crane. I would see cranes every single day. And I would actually start to have these amazing flyovers, which I'd never experienced before, of these huge flocks of cranes flying over my home, making that beautiful sound, that magic, that they create in the field. And I didn't know that it was Thoth that was coming to me. But then I was divinely guided to that intuition. And the way that he would come to me was as a beautiful masculine energy, a very strong man with light eyes and light hair. And he would come to me and we would meditate together. So I had this vision of this home, this land that I was creating, that I was manifesting. And he would come to me and we would sit by the horses and we would meditate together. And yes, isn't that cool? And I was also divinely guided by Yeshua and Mary Magdalene. And I started to do some research on YouTube. I love YouTube. And I was divinely led to Blue Star Rising, the channel. And I found Maia's amazing digital art that is the most magnificent digital art I've ever witnessed, experienced, engaged with in my life. And it's far beyond art, what she does. It is channeled, guided information to support the collective on their journey. And so I was totally addicted, Maia. So I started leaning into everything. I would spend like hours watching your transmissions online because not only was I so highly engaged and activated by the art, but I could by the visual, but I could feel it. It was speaking to my soul. I could feel the activation. And it wasn't even about the words or even the visual. It was about the intuition that would come through to support guiding me through my journey. And then you did a series on Thoth, on how he appears to you sometimes. And I saw this visual of this beautiful masculine figure with light hair and light eyes. And I was like, my whole body went ping, confirmation, as if I needed another confirmation, but confirmation that this is the energy that has been supporting you and guiding you at a time where, I'm a single mother. I was going through a divorce. I was very, very shut off to masculine energy in general. And so it was magnificent to engage with his energy. And so with that introduction to how I found your magnificent work, thank you so much for doing what you do, because you have changed my life in many ways and offered me a level of support and magic that I've not found anywhere else. And so we're going to invite Maia to share her beautiful story with us. Hang with us to the end, because I'll show the beautiful gift that many of you know what I create for my blessed guests. She's going to tell us her very, very unique, like born woke. I know that's like so cliche, that woke statement, but whatever. She's going to share her unique story from babyhood to now. We'll see how far we can get. She has a very unique story, and you're in for some magic. So hang with us, and I will offer all of her links so that you can access her magic in the online space and lean into her offerings to the world. And so let's dive in, Maia, and we can go so many directions with this, but I would love to start with, I know a little bit about your childhood and your beautiful mother. You've shared some information around your mother, but let's just dive in and go where you're led to share the magic around your unique life and your awakening.
Okay, well, thank you. What a wonderful introduction, Monica, and a beautiful story. Before I start my life path, I just want to say briefly that when Thoth first came to me in 1977, I expected him to be an Egyptian. I mean, look like an Egyptian. And he was on this blonde, and I'm going, and he explained to me that he wasn't an Egyptian, although he was in Egypt at a certain period of time. And the whole story about that, we won't go into here. Now, Osiris, I've seen, as Osiris is a black man. So there's different things in here, but it just so happens that the Thoth that I communicate with is blonde, blue-eyed. That's who he is. That he was in Thoth Racemus, and he is in the inner earth that way. But as you see on my incarnations of Thoth, he's been like an Indian looking, Eastern Indian, and he was Akasha, and he was a black Egyptian, and he was a lot of other races too. I just want to put that in there. Okay, so now. Gosh. So I do have a book that my dear friend Vera Lauren wrote, because I didn't really feel like writing, and I had a lot going on, and I have health considerations too. And she offered to write the book. Of course, I collaborated greatly in it, and we put it. It's a very small book, and it's my authorized autobiography, and so it will flesh in, if you're at all interested. Monica will provide a link to where that book is located on Amazon, if you'd like to pursue the story a little bit more. I was born in 1949. If you do the math, it means I'm going to be 75 next month, in Venezuela, in Caripito, Venezuela. And my father was working for an oil company there at the time, and that's why we were there, and that's where I was born. I'm not going to tell my whole life story, don't worry, but I'm just accenting a few things here. The first, my mother was 45 when I was born, and I was her only child. And in those days, it was just unbelievable. Nowadays that happens more often, but not then. And she didn't worry about it. She wasn't having a problem at all, and she wasn't nervous about it. Nothing. That's my mother. I refer to sometimes as true grit, and so that's what happened. And so when I was 4.5 months, see, she recorded these things. I mean, she wrote them down. It's not like she was like a stage mother. Oh my God, I've got this special child. No. It was just like, oh, that's interesting. She's my daughter. I'm going to write about her. I'm going to put this down, And so that's why I know a lot of things about my childhood that I wouldn't have remembered, like 4.5 months. But that began the whole thing in her journal, so to speak. because at 4.5 months in the tropics, Venezuela, at night, I would make this funny little sound. And she knew it wasn't a diaper pin. She just knew it instinctively to take me outside. And on at least one occasion, she did this. And I looked up in the sky and I pointed at 4.5 months and I said, star. And I mean, that's pretty much accents my whole life right there. I was saying, hey, this is my life's work. This is my connection, star. And so it continued. But the other big point in childhood, skip a lot because it's in the book, but was 4 years old when we lived in the Ozarks, for my completely different scenario. But my father got tired of oil companies for a while. He wanted to do something closer to nature. We moved to Arkansas in the Ozarks, and we owned a dairy farm, and he had like 5 cows or something. And, it's not like the dairy farms today. He played with the cows. He hugged them, and they adored him. They followed him around like puppy dogs. So that's the kind of dairy farmer he was. Anyway, so we had this dairy farm, and we were out, in the country, and the closest town was an hour away, Harrison. And we didn't have TV. This is 1954, 55, in there. And there was no television and none of that stuff. This is in the Stone Age, folks. And I had this experience, which I presumed at the time was a dream, but it obviously wasn't. I was floating, traveling astrally into a large mountain. I went right into it. It was a desert mountain. We don't have desert mountains in Arkansas. And inside it, when I was in, there were these hallways and these nice looking tall men. I didn't see any women in this instance. And they were really sweet to me. But they didn't treat me like a child. And they showed me these, what I called these tall boxes, white boxes with lights. They were computers. And they would tell me how they operated, and they tell me all these things, just as if I were one of them, And I was, I understand. Yeah. And so when I came back, and I said, Mama, listen to my dream, and I started telling her, she went, huh, and I drew on napkins. I still have these napkins. I drew on these napkins in crayon, these pictures of what they'd show me. Well, it was a 4-year-old child drawing, right? But, it gave an idea. And the main one that I drew that was interesting, I said, and this is a clock controlled by the mind. And, that was 1954, a dairy farm in the Ozarks. So that just started everything. But I didn't really get consciously involved until I was 16. And I never enjoyed going to school. I wasn't a rebel or anything like that. And I made fairly good grades. I never studied. And I wondered, how come I'm making such good grades when I don't even read the lessons? Well, I was connecting. And but I just it didn't fit with me at all. So it was very difficult for me. And so one day, this was junior. They had in those days, I think they call it something different. And I was in high school, but it was the junior year in high school. So you had one more year to go and then you graduated. And I put my hand on the door to go into study hall, which was actually the cafeteria that subbed for that. And I'll never forget, I put my hand on the door. And it was like the minute my hand touched the door, I didn't hear it like a voice, but the words were formed in my brain. Chrystine, if you go one more day, it will be dangerous. Now, the sentiment around it was not, oh my God, it'd be dangerous. It didn't scare me at all. It was very calm. Just a fact. If you go one more day, it will be dangerous. And I just sort of, and I went back to the car because my mother always waited, not because she thought I would skip out, but she was just giving me moral support. It was hard for me to go to school. And she'd wait till I get, so came back and I got in the car and she said, what happened? What's the matter? She could see I was not disturbed, but, and I looked at her and I told her exactly what happened. And this was the defining moment, folks. She looked at me for all of about 3-4 seconds, very closely. And she said, let's go home. And that was it. That was it. And, I get teary-eyed because what would have you get back in that school? What would have happened? I don't know that I would have died, but I think it may have been more that I would have lost the connection. and I'd had some other kind of really miserable life or something. I don't know. Who knows?
That is
That
so
was the defining
beautiful.
moment. That was the defining moment.
I
Yeah.
would love to, if you don't mind, speak to that
Yeah.
for a moment for
Yeah.
all of the parents who are watching this.
Yes.
The importance of our willingness to honor the thoughts, feelings, and emotions of our children and the unique experience and perspective that they desire and need in this life. So I have 3 children. 2 of them have been in and out of homeschooling throughout their career. And then my
Uh-huh.
youngest is still in traditional school. But I'm always listening and I'm always weaving an awareness around what is the next best step for my child. And I
Yes. Yes.
really want to impress upon everyone that I have a co-parent who I never thought would be on board with doing non-traditional school. When
Uh-huh.
there's a will, there's a way,
Yeah. Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
And even though you may think there's no way in my situation that this could work, if you lay the brick and you ask for the guidance, there is a way to do what is uniquely necessary for your child, but you have to be open to it and you have to request the guidance. So,
Exactly. That is so true. And this would have been 67 or something like that when this happened.
what a
My
blessing.
mother, my mother and I were metaphysical. She had a very open mind. So she would sometimes mention things, oh, did you read that about, but it wasn't like we were really metaphysical. And I wasn't claiming to channel anybody. I was just telling her what I got, you know? And so that was it. And about 6 months later, that's when it started. That by that I mean consciously. Well, okay, I just have to tell this part. So I was a little depressed, not because I wanted to go back to school, no, but I was 16 and I never had a lot of friends. I wasn't shy. You can tell I'm not shy, and I wasn't shy then. But they wanted to talk about boys and football games and blah and football games and boys and boys. And it was like, I just wasn't interested in that. So I didn't have a lot of friends. But at the same time, I'm 16. I'm sitting at home with my mother. I wanted to have something. I didn't know what. I didn't know what. And so I was kind of depressed a little. And so she came to me one day. She said, look, I ordered 17 magazine and whatever. But, she said, this article in 17 magazine is a contest for story writing. And you do poetry and, you prose, you write cute, little poetry things about, whatever. And why don't you enter one of your poems or something in this contest? She was just trying to get me interested. I said, well, okay. So I had a little typewriter. That's all we had in those days. And I sat down and I put my hands on the keys. And when I did that, it wasn't automatic writing. I connected. That's all I can say. It was this feeling. And when I did, I saw this whole people in Canada, ancient people. And they had a tribe, they had a name, they had language, they had all of this intricate stuff. Boom, just there. And they called themselves the people of the gray moon because they came from somewhere in the Pacific that had sunk, Lemuria, that had, because it was so shortly after that, the skies were often gray with this gray, color. They had sun, but it was still a sort of like ashy stuff was left over. So they called themselves the people of the gray moon. So I wrote, I don't know, 2 chapters. You call them chapters. I was just typing away. But again, it was not automatic writing. I knew this. I had connected to it. It was part of my field. And I brought it through and I realized I could write it. I had the talent to write it. And I did. So I deliver it to my mother, expecting to get a little poem. And she reads this and she looks at me. She says, Chrystine, I don't think this is for 17 magazine. And so she encouraged me to keep writing it, which I did. And then I thought, well, maybe I need to go to, some kind of a writing school. I was still off track on this. So I found this one somewhere and I went to one of the, and I took my book. Now I had a whole book and they went, you should write something that you know about. And I handed it to me. And that was the end of that. And my mother said, I don't think you're going to go there anymore, are you? And I said, nope, that's the end of that. So then my mother was walking down the mall, malls were big in those days. And they used to have, I don't know if they do now, I haven't been to a mall in so long, but they had bookstalls right in the middle. You walk past, and she was walking past, and all of a sudden, boom, she stops and she just feels like I have to go over there. So she walks over to the bookstall, and there's it says James Churchward on the lost continent of Mu. And she goes, oh, and she opens it. And I don't know if you know about James Churchward. He was in the 1920s. He was originally, I think, an archaeologist. But he went all over the world, and he went to even Tibet, and he got in these caves in Tibet that they let him in and all this stuff. And he traced from the Mayans to the Tibetans, this, what he called vocables, parts of words. They all had the same vocables, and you put them together and you have a language, and it was shared through all of these ancient cultures, the parts of the words. Well, he had them written in there in this book. She just opened, she went, oh my God, because they were the vocables that were my people in the book, that I was writing on the people of the gray moon. They were the same vocables. They made sense. Like Kanatachi meant, the Kana meant a high hill, and Tachi meant city, and Kanatachi was a hit city on a high hill, in my book. So it was just amazing. And so that point, we got together and we went, what's going on? And she said, well, there's this person named Edgar Cayce, and he talks about, past lives and things, and the Akasha. I don't even know if she knew the word Akasha, but she was trying to identify what it might be. So we said, let's go look that up. Of course, no Google, nothing like that. You go to the bookstore and try to find a library. And we found, this and that. And there was Joan Grant, which are her far memory books. It's not like we just immersed ourselves in these books. All we needed was a hint, we just had a hint. Oh. And then I said, I am reading the Akasha. And she said, yeah, I believe that's what's going on here. So then, now remember how young I was. I said, well, if I can do that, then I can get anything I want, which is not exactly true, but that was my perception. And I said, I will just ask for how the universe was created, some little thing like that, So I started with this. And I didn't just get a simple answer. I got a whole science, mind you. And I called it universe. Well, they called it, whatever the connection called it, Universe One. So I wrote, it was only about this thing, but boy, it had all this about interdimensions. It had things that Nassim Haramein are talking about now, but that was then, way back then, and I was a high school dropout. But I understood it. See, I wasn't just writing it down. When it came through me, now maybe I didn't understand every little detail, but I understood it. So the next thing that happened that's big is that this would have been now 1972, I believe. We were watching TV, and Edgar Mitchell, the astronaut, at the time he was an astronaut, was getting ready to go to the moon. And he said, well, when he got back, he was going to quit NASA and create an institute for the study of what do they call it? Parapsychology. And that's what they called it. And my mother said, we need to contact him. And I said, yeah, okay. She was always the lead person. She didn't push me into anything. She just said, how about let's do that? And I go, that's a good idea. So we wrote him a letter, and I sent him some of the science. Or maybe I sent it all to him. I think I sent it all to him because it wasn't much. Well, he went to the moon, and then he came back, and he was in quarantine. But then we got a phone call, and my mother answered. It was Edgar Mitchell. And he said, that when he got back, to his office after all of that he was doing, there was tons of mail. He said, I had a secretary. I'm not going to open all that mail, people I don't know. If there's anything important, she'd let me know. He said, but I saw your package. And he said, my hand just went right to it. And so he opened it. He read it. He called. And he said, I want to see Chrystine. Well, we were living in San Antonio, so it's very convenient that it's a short, not that long, 3 hours or something drive to Houston, where NASA was. So he paid for our way, and he had a place for us to stay and everything, And he had his budding team. I don't even think he had a name for it yet, which would be, the Institute of Noetic Sciences. But at the time, he didn't even have a name for it. And to meet him, because he was still technically with NASA, my mother and I drove up to the gates of NASA, and we had to pass, and they opened the gates, and we went in, and they led us to this giant conference room. I want to tell you, you could put a small house in this giant conference room. And they had the then astronauts, which were as many as there are now, all over the wall, big pictures of all the astronauts, including Edgar Mitchell, on the wall. It was like Valhalla, something like that. And we sat there waiting, and it wasn't long. The door opens, and here's Edgar Mitchell with a little cup of coffee. Hi, he comes in. Anyway, and the gist of it is that he said that my science was legitimate. He said, but it's far beyond anything that people are working with now. Now, Edgar Mitchell at the time had the most science degrees, the most education in science of any of the astronauts at that time. And so we took him at his word on that. And so he said, I want to study you. Well, that didn't work out too well because he was looking at it from traditional ways to study things. And we came back and forth several times. His little group of young people who were part of his team at the time that he'd gathered, college students, whatever, they gave me an ink blot test. And I said, well, that looks like, and they'd go, really? Wow. Because I was drawing stuff in from, I didn't say a snowman or something. I was really saying, oh, well, that looks like the formation of the universe, blah, blah, blah. And they were going, whoa, And so anyway, I remember we had a meal at, I think it was not, I don't know, it was his house or one of the students or the group. And we were all sitting around the table. And someone said to him, is it true that you saw UFOs when you were on the moon? Everything stopped. And he said, I can't discuss that. And he got up and left the table. However, when I told him later at one of the other conversations that I was already beginning to communicate, and we'll get to that in a moment, with ultra beings that were beautiful, intelligent, loving, kind, but they were appearing in my room at night. And I told him this. He looked at me and he leaned over to me. He said, you tell them, and this is what I was supposed to tell them, damn it, leave me alone. And that's what I was supposed to say to them. So I think he changed his perceptions great. Many years passed after that before he passed, I think he changed a lot of perceptions. But at the time, it is my opinion, and this is my opinion alone, that he had some experiences he didn't quite understand, and they were perhaps more nefarious, because there are the other types out there. And maybe he heard the stories of the abductions and whatever, and that was his mindset, So that's fine, but it was revealing at the time. But he was a beautiful person, wonderful man, and very kind and respectful. And so at the very end of all of that, which was about 3 or 4 trips back and forth, he knelt in front of me. My mother was sitting here, and he knelt in front of me. He said, Chrystine, you're the most exciting thing I've come across so far in this, what he's looking for. He said, but I've made a decision that I can't continue anymore with you because, he said, I see it would be a lifetime pursuit. And I've already put my life in a direction with the Noetics Foundation and whatever. And that's what that's my choice, I understood that. But, I really wasn't that disappointed because he'd given me a great gift, that I wasn't just, up here in the Netherlands. I was tapping into actual, true information. Now, as a translator, and Thoth does not use the word channel, he uses the word translator, I'm doing exactly that. So I'm not professing to get everything right. Everything that comes out of my mouth is from God's lips to mine. I'm a translator, and I think I'm pretty good at it, especially by now. But that's what I am, and I'm also, as I like to say too, this is my experience that I'm sharing with you. Thoth, all of this, except of course, Edgar Mitchell was a fact. I met with him and all of that. But, all of this that I'm receiving, all of this, I'm not claiming it to be anything but my experience. Now, I feel very good about it, and I'm sharing it. And for what it's worth to whoever wants to listen to it, So back to I have a little bit more here about this, and that is, so how did they start coming to me? Well, around the time of Mitchell, right in there. I don't remember if it was just before him or just after I started communicating with him. I really can't remember. Very close in there. The same tall, beautiful men that I saw at 4 years old, the same type, just one at a time, started appearing in my bedroom at night. I mean, I'd open my eyes and they were there. And, it was scary because you're half asleep, you open your eyes and there's a 6'5" guy standing in your bedroom at night in the shadows. Oh my God, I'd scream bloody murder. Of course, they'd go, but it wasn't a dream. And so they would say to me, well, look, we're working with your health situation and helping attune your frequencies to the work ahead, because I've always had health situations. And they said, but if you don't, it's kind of necessary on a certain level for us to appear at this time. But if you don't want us to, we will not do it. This is up to you. And I said, no, I want you to continue. I will try my best not to scream. He explained to me, of course, this was all telepathically, that when I screamed, it hurt them because they're in a frequency that they're coming down in, and I'm disrupting the frequency, That's how I'll try not to do it. But of course, I continued to. So one time, I opened my eyes and there were balloons, and they came through one wall and they slowly went through the room and they went through the other wall. And I said next day, well, what was that? They said, we tried to think of the most harmless thing that you would know was not supposed to be in your room, in the middle of the night. And it went through the wall, So they were helping me. And one time, now this is where my mother got involved. They would appear to her, not as much as to me, but on occasion, they appeared to her. And one time, my physician, Ramul, appeared to her and said telepathically, would you please get up and go into your daughter's room? So she did, and he followed her. I opened my eyes. I looked to the door. Here's my mother. We're both very short, and there's this huge, tall guy walking behind her. And of course, I screamed. but anyway, these things happen. She came in one time and saw this. They did have what I call brownies working with them, but they weren't bad guys. They did look not as human. They were sort of brown little guys, and they had sort of little slanted eyes, but they weren't the big bug-eyed ones. And they said, well, these are they're harmless. They're just working with us. They're good guys, So once in a while, very seldom, I would see one of them. So one time I was lying in bed. I looked up, and here's this little guy coming down above me, and he had these little long things on his fingers that you thought would have scared me to death. But fortunately, by then I wasn't that scared. And I knew it was a brownie. And he was like trembling. No, he was coming down with these things on his finger. He wasn't going to hurt me. It was some kind of analysis thing or whatever. My mother comes in and she sees it. And of course, he just disappears. And she said, did you see those long things on his fingers? So it's obvious that we were seeing the same thing. But I never felt threatened. Now, we had a period of time where not Thoth, I'm sorry, but the ultras, which I now call Star Kindred, explained to me that I was moving through a vibration from one side of a vibration to another. And in that vibration, there was a very narrow window where negative kinds of ET beings could try to kind of come in. He said, but not to worry, I was protected. And they said, if you have a situation, you call my name. This is Noel talking to me. He was the only one that had a beard. He said, you call my name. So one night I woke up, there's this little guy. I didn't see he was gray or anything because he had a helmet on or whatever. He was lifting me right out of the bed. And I said, Noel, and boy, that was the end of that. And it never happened again. One other time, there's only 2 times that I'm aware of. They told me, get up and get in your mother's bed. And they told me that before on occasion. So I did. And she wakes up sometime later, goes, look. And down the hall, the door was open, and she was trying to show me something that I couldn't see. And in the morning, I said, what was it? She said there was scuffling in the hall. It was like 2 forces. One was keeping the other force out. The good guys were keeping the bad from coming into that space, So those are the only 2 times that I can remember they ever got anywhere near us. And then I passed through that vibration, or the whole situation did. And then there was nothing like that again. But one time they asked me to come in my mother's bedroom, and I did. And a computer appeared. Now this was in 1975, so I knew what computers were by then. We didn't have them in our homes, And I saw these tall white boxes, like I'd seen as the baby in the mountain. And it was one, and it was really tall. This wasn't a little like we have it, really tall and white. And it manifested right there in the bedroom. And I said, take it away. So they did. And I said, why did you do that? And they said, because we want to share a frequency with you. but we'll give you, instead of doing that again and scaring you, we will give you the codes. And they gave me all these codes and ones and zeros. Well, I didn't know about binary code. I didn't know anything about that. The computer, I didn't know. And then later I learned that, binary code, but I also learned a few years ago that they're discovering that the universe speaks in binary code. So it's all, all connected, all connected. So I've been talking a while, but you get the idea. Now, the last thing I'm going to share is about Thoth, how he came into the picture. First of all, they told me, the Star Kindred, that I had a benefactor. I now call him my mentor because that's understandable better, but they called him my benefactor, and that he was really the one, actually behind all of this. But they were working with him for him because I couldn't directly communicate with him yet. But much of what I was receiving from the Akasha, it was his Akasha and all that. They didn't give his name. They just said, it's coming from this source. And soon, before too long, you will meet him. When they told me that, I think it was probably 10 years later, that in 1977, or maybe 8 years later, that they told me it was Thoth, and that they started connecting me to him through a series of whatever, I don't remember. And he started directly communicating with me. And when he did, I hardly ever saw the Star Kindred anymore. It was just like they handed me over to him, Now, I didn't see him, and my mother didn't see him like appear in the room or anything. I see him in my mind, or sometimes a flash, but he doesn't make those kinds of appearances. However, I did see his hand once. His hand appeared in the room with this beautiful, like a signet ring of some kind, of ancient, gorgeous ring, gorgeous hand appeared. And then one time I saw this emerald green light, this sort of a plasma-like light forming, and I knew that was him. And only twice in all these years. And I said, why don't you I just like to see you. I'm not going to scream now. I'm, past all that stuff. And he said, because I don't think you could handle it. He said, energetically, if I put my whole body into the presence, you're not ready for that, Maya. So I took his word for it, Anyway, so that's how all of that progressed. And ever since 1977, he's been my man. I have communicated with other beings that he has opened the scroll for, as he calls, so they can come through and communicate with me on rare occasions. But then you see there's the inner earth. And Thoth has an embodiment in the inner earth. And he prefers me to call him Thoth Hara, which is that, well, I can call him anything I want, but I mean, that's the name he gave me for the inner earth one. And so when I was like 4 again, that was a crucial age, I named my doll. I was trying to say the name at 4. Of course, I didn't speak baby talk at all. I spoke perfect English from the age of 0, I think. But anyway, I was trying to say Mikala, and I said Mikali. But that was the name I named my doll. Well, it turned out many years later, this voice came to me and she called my name, and I said, "Who are you?" She said, "I am you, but I am your other part of your being in the inner earth." And she said, "My name is Michaela." And it was really Mikala. Again, I mispronounced it. Finally, I got it right, but it's Mikala. And that was many, many years ago. But I've written extensively and now have videos on the inner earth. When I say inner earth, I really should have called it the hollow earth, because it's the sacred hollow. There's a lot going on in this planet, all kinds of dimensions, and there's bad guys and good guys and in-between guys and all of this stuff. And some of them are in the little cavern areas, and oh, they're bad, oh, they're good. It's really, of course, all a polarity thing. But yes, they have different agendas, and some of those agendas aren't too nice. But in the hollow earth, nobody can get in there unless they're invited. And that is because it's a slightly removed dimension, which I didn't realize at first, but I came to understand that. It's like, they explained it this way to me. I'm sure it's a shortcut explanation, but it's like if you take a bottled Pepsi and you undo the top, it goes, it's like there was a swirl on the planet, and then it just creates this other dimension inside the planet. And this is a natural process. Every single planet that is viable is ensouled, as he calls it, not kind of soul we understand, but a universal ensouled planet. Like we have Gaia, he likes to call Gaia the ensouled version, has a sacred hollow. They all do, because that's the way they're formed. It's not some alien doing it or some supernatural thing. It is the way a planet, when it becomes ensouled and viable, is formed. It just triggers that swirl, and then you have this sacred hollow where the central sun is, which he calls the atoma. We have an atoma. The sun has, our solar sun has an atoma. The center of the universe has an atoma, and they're all linked and connected. So I received extensive information in the 1980s about the sacred hollow, not just the people and situations, but the science, how it was created, how it works. And I'll have a lot of videos on this. Incidentally, while we're talking about that, before I stop talking for a minute, and that is that on my Blue Star Rising channel, which I share with Michael Henry Dunn, he has his videos there as well. I have, lots of videos, and they're all on topics, mostly on topics that were developed for me, years ago. I read from some of that, but I bring it up to date. And I say now in 2024, whatever, let's discuss it from this perspective. So I'm not just bringing it up from the past. I'm making the connection because I have 55 plus years of constant work. And most of it until rather recently was all written. Now I'm focusing on the videos. And that's a lot, whether it's true, untrue, in between, whatever, it's a lot. And all of this, I feel that in my last stage of life here, I want to share it in a way that people can access it quickly. So all my videos that I do by myself, not with Michael, because that's a longer program, are generally under 40 minutes, but most of them are 25, 26, 30 minutes long. Some of them even far less. So you can get a nutrient-rich package, really quick. And then sometimes I put links to other videos that are related to that, in the below. So you have a nice roundabout way of working with it. You can also find all of my videos on my website as well. So okay, I'm going to stop talking for a while and let you say something, Monica.
Oh, that was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. So what I'd like to do is, based on what you just explained to us, I'm going to take all of that and try to wrap it up into my experience with your work and or a picture, a little taste of that, and why I started leaning into your work. And then I would love to ask you to share kind of your process around creating your videos.
Okay.
So my experience with your work, I started leaning into your work a lot because I was seeking something different. I was done engaging with the mainstream. I had been done with that for a while, and I frankly was getting kind of bored. And I was like, okay, I want to watch something, but I don't want to watch Netflix. I don't want to watch TikTok or, whatever. So what can I find? And this is when I really started leaning into your videos because of the way in which you present it. It is such a beautiful visual to engage with. It feels good. It feels expansive. And I feel like it is supporting me on my journey, on my ascension journey. I feel the codes flowing. I notice that when I engage with your material, that the synchronicities in my life explode. The guidance comes in. And so the way in which you're describing your life and the experiences that you've had, obviously that overflows into your mission work. And I get a little taste of that in my life.
Yeah.
So I will notice that this beautiful, cosmic jigsaw puzzle will be presented to me. And the puzzle pieces will come through this person or this experience or that experience. Something else I experience with your work that I want to mention to everyone is the level of sovereignty within your work and transparency. That you don't claim to be the be all end all know all, that you really encourage people to have their own unique individual experience, that you are a fractal of the bigger part. And all of these things I feel more present in my life when I engage with your work. And so for everyone who's watching or listening, I would encourage you, if you are seeking something different, that will absolutely activate you on a multidimensional level, that will appeal to all of your senses. Engage with Maia's work. Go watch one of her videos and just be intuitively guided. Go to Blue Star Rising or to her website, which I'll have linked here in the description, and just scroll through and click and see what you're led to. And I will tell you that oftentimes when I'm watching her videos, my 3D logical mind doesn't get it. Know that your soul knows.
Yeah.
And so even though you may not consciously understand what is being said, there is a visual activation going on, and your soul knows. You're being activated on a deep cellular subconscious level when you engage with her work. And it's so fun. The visuals that you create, the pictures that you paint for us are next level. They are so beautiful. Like, I really want to witness and celebrate the magic, the beauty of your work, and the time and dedication and the energy that you put into your work. Thank you so much for all that you've done all of your life. This is amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. It means a lot to me, you know, because it has been my life. I've invested a lot in it, and I'm very careful to try not to be over identified with it. But hey, you know, it's a bit, I've never done anything else. I worked in Dairy Queen once when I was 16 for 6 months until I dropped the red ink pad into the cherry syrup. And the little old Texas manager, he picked out the you know, the ink pen. He said, "Well, Chrystine, at least it's the same color." And he served the syrup. And I quit.
Oh my goodness.
So that was my one experience with you know, oh, there's one more I just got to show you. So I thought, well, maybe I'll try Montgomery Ward. So I went to Montgomery and they said, okay, well, here's your first task. And they took me into a room that was full of coat hangers. They were all twisted. And you said, untangle all these coat hangers. I'm not swear. It was a huge room full. There was a room full of these coat hangers. And I looked at those coat hangers and I thought, this is a metaphor. It's a metaphor for a life that I don't want anything to do with.
Wow.
And that was it. My mother said, I don't think you need to be doing any of that stuff, you know. And I was going to be an entertainer, you know, and I had sung and danced. I loved dancing, and I did exhibition dancing and whatever, just because my mother taught me how to dance, and she was a ballroom dancing teacher, and we taught together. But, you know, when this came in, and I was very young, that was in my teens, and, you know, but this was going on some of the same time. And then I said, this is my life path. This is what I want to do. My mother said, okay, let's do it. You know, it was like she just switched tracks because I was saying, well, I want to be an entertainer. Okay, we'll do that. And then when I switched past, she just, okay, we're going to go this way now.
Full support. You know? So may I ask,
right.
Where's your father?
Oh, my father, my dear father. Yes, he's a wonderful human being. He was 8 years younger than my mother. He asked her to marry him on a blind date. He knew what he wanted, you know. And of course she said, I don't think so. So it took a little longer. Just a loving, beautiful human being. Everyone loved my father. He unfortunately smoked and ate all the wrong foods, and maybe had a condition for it, but he died of a heart attack when he was 47. So that left my mother and I together and on the path. But he would have been supportive. He was, you know, just an incredible being. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, what a blessing. What a blessing. Okay. Before you go in to share a little bit about your process, I would like to just illuminate what you're saying around mission work. I love how loud that message was to you when you walked in and saw all of a room full of coat hangers tangled up. I work with a lot of people who are looking for a way to step into mission, and it feels like a big task, you know, like, how do I possibly get there? I feel like I'm untangling coat hangers, and this message around it's getting louder for people, you know, that what you're doing in the office, you know, whatever it may be, and without judgment, because some of those people are meant to stay in those roles. There are people who have to be the plumbers, right? Like, we need those roles. Yeah. But for those who are really feeling the deep call, maybe the kick in the shin, the smack in the face, to move into their mission work, I want to remind everyone that it doesn't have to be from 0 to 500 or 0 to a million in a split second. It gets to be a slow, steady process. You just get to lay the brick and tell that divine higher power, whatever resonates with you, God, source, spirit, whatever, that I'm ready, and God will meet you a millionfold. And I speak from experience, and know that nudge to move into mission, it will get louder and louder and louder and more obnoxious until you actually do it. So just lay the brick. And a great way to lay the brick is to go watch one of Maia's videos. Like, I'm not kidding you. You go watch one of those videos, and there's going to be some magic seed planted within you that you cannot even fathom on a human level, that's going to offer you some sort of guidance. You manifested these words through us, right? Like, we are you, you are us. There's a reason that you're watching or listening to this podcast. Absolutely. So beautiful.
I totally agree. So I'm going to tell you just a tiny bit about my art, and then I have one thing to share. Okay, so the art, it is AI art. That means, it's created through the new technology. And I was doing older art before, but this is perfect for me now. But I'm not just writing a sentence or clicking a button and I get what the images you see on my video take work. Not as I've painted them by myself, certainly not, but it takes work. And it not only work, you have to have the vision, and you have to connect it to wordsmithing. And then you have to say, well, I want this lighting, or I want this kind of frequency here. But then the other thing I do is this is Thoth's encouragement. I call upon the streaming of the Thoth intelligence to enter it. Because you see, AI art is created through a random generator. Now, it's not just as simply a random generator, because it's listening to what you're saying. It's trying to give you what you want. But it's still a random generator. And randomness, Thoth speaks of randomness, had years ago, as sacred. Because when you have a random field, of course, you can use it for ill, you can use anything for good or ill, whatever, but the sacred source can come through that randomness and deliver. And so I ask that stream to come into the random field of the AI as it's generating what I've texted it, and it brings through something more than the beautiful image that I'm asking for. And that's where you get that frequency, that difference. Now, some of the things that I do, have you seen the one on I can say Urasa, the templates of the water of the sacred hollow of the earth?
Yes.
Yeah. I thought you would have gone to that one. Yeah. And these specifically, those things like that has real specific frequencies in them that people are absorbing. All of it is, but those are very specific. So that's the way I do my art. And as an aside, there's a fellow, I can't even think of his name right now, but he has a channel, and I sometimes watch some of his videos. He's a very nice guy, and I think he's for real, and he has a spirit box he created, and he can talk to, the souls on the other side, and they talk to him through this spirit box. And I heard it is really rather incredible. Well, he decided, and I heard this later after Thoth had me doing all this, to use the AI art to say, okay, spirit, the daughter that, that passed from this couple that was communicating with their daughter through my machine, present yourself in an image. Now, he doesn't know what she looks like. Okay. He gets the image, he sends it to the parents, and they go, oh my God. It's not exact, but it's close enough to make them really, cry, because it's their daughter. And he's done this over and over with different people, and it's working. So after Thoth had told me this and I was doing this, I came across what he was doing, which kind of verified the potential of all of this, So the other thing I wanted to mention really quick, because I know we're running down on the time, is that Thoth really recommends water. I mean, he says water is it. If everything you take into your body is so important, always has been, but now especially so. But the top of the capstone is water, and the right kind of water, structured water, of course, purified and everything, with the right images and energies. And that's where you can get my Urasa stickers on the website to put the stickers of the energy for the water. So we might have a discussion on that some other time, but I'm just mentioning it quickly. And the other thing is you see here, I'm in Crestone, Colorado, where I live. And this is the second time I've lived here. The first time was in 1994 through 2000, and I moved back in 2017, all guided, of course. And Thoth calls this area the crown chakra of the ascension grid, not the planet. Chakras of the planet go through the planet like a human being, with the North Pole, the crown, and blah, blah. But he's talking about different grids. Different grids have different chakra resonances. So the ascension dynamic of the planet, this is the crown chakra for that. And there's a whole lot about that. Maybe sometime I'll come back on your station. We can just talk about that and how it relates to the whole planet, not just to Crestone. But here, I already have a nonprofit that I've had for years that helps support me and whatever. But I also was guided to create a new one, different for this area, well, for the world, but it's located here. And that, by that I mean we actually had land donated, and it's called the New Earth Ark Foundation, ARK. And that's another topic that is growing. But the purpose of that, well, one of the purposes is that when I pass, my work will be donated, and funds from the other nonprofit to that to keep it going. And that's where my library, my works will be at that time. And but the main thing now, while I'm still here, is to bring in people who would like to teach the Thothic sciences. When I say teach it, I don't mean mouth it like, oh, well, Thoth says, but use it as a basis for their own intuition, knowledge, wisdom. But it's a basis because they're so resonant with it. They want it to be a basis. They get it, and it agrees with what they're receiving, so they can use it as a basis under the auspices officially of the New Earth Ark Foundation. There would be a reciprocity there, So it's just beginning, but I already know a few people who want to be teachers. One of them is a young woman who is in her 30s now, but she started following my work when she was 17. And she's very good at, bringing through her own and then connecting it and saying, well, Thoth said this and look at this and how this connects to that. And she just goes off with it, So that's what I want to see. I say that's what Thoth is guiding me. And I agree totally, because if you just leave an inheritance of something that people just mouth all the time, 100 years from now, well, Thoth says, that doesn't go anywhere. It's interesting, but it doesn't really get anywhere. It comes alive when you give it out to people that can take it and make it their own, in the sense of bringing in and working with things that develop it into new vistas, new pathways. So that's what I wanted to share at this point in time.
I love that. Absolutely. It's that unique perspective, and everything is always shifting and changing. It's not a static universe that we live in. So it makes sense to have that unique perspective, that unique soul code come through the teaching.
Yes.
Okay. So to access that, is this something that we can access on your website? That training?
Yes. There is a page says NEAF. We didn't have room to put the whole thing. New Earth Ark Foundation, NEAF, on the tab, and it talks about it a little bit. But if you want to know more, perhaps get more involved, you can contact me directly. There's my email there, and there's a lot going on here in Crestone that we're all working with. I say we. There's other people involved, and some of them have their own things, but they're connecting to my thing, and I'm connecting to their thing.
Yeah.
This is a unique area. On the planet, Crestone is aside from the crown chakra thing, but that certainly makes a difference as well. And I won't say the whole history right now, but you were talking about the plumber, everybody, some people have to be plumbers. Well, here in Crestone, there's more spiritual centers, from Baptists to Buddhists to Catholics to you name it, all kinds of temples and Buddha and what do you call those things? Stupas, and all of this here in this small area. And there's more collected in one small area than any place else on the planet. That's a fact.
Wow.
And there's a reason for that. We discuss maybe in another episode. But so the plumber. So I'm in a rental house, and I've never seen this guy before in my life. He comes in to fix the plumbing. He walks in with his equipment. Now, I've got a living room. This is a temple. It's got a round large table with all these crystal skulls. It's got, you just name it. It's got it in there. There's Yeshua in a Buddha posture statue sitting here, and all these different things. He comes in with his tools, and he looks around. He sees all these crystal skulls. He says, oh, well, when I had my initiation in Maia land, and he started, and this is the people of Crestone. You can't find anybody And, and so the plumber, this other time, another plumber came to do something. And I just reached out and hugged. Oh, yeah, let me give him a hug. Yes, yes. You don't hug your plumber. You do
Love
it.
it. That's so cool.
Yeah. I just thought I'd end with that funny
I
thing.
love that. That's so fun. And that's a real rainbow behind you.
Yes, it is. I caught it at the moment of its splendor.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
That is the crest in the, what Thoth calls the crest in the stone, or the mountain of the sacred On, because that's where he says is the thresholding chamber for the sacred On, which was the original Ark of the Covenant, not the one that wound up in Israel, which is nothing wrong with that one, but this is the original one that they had to take back because they weren't ready for it. And it moves, not a lot, but it was in Mount Sinai for a long time. But he told me when I was here in the 90s that it would be come back, apparently it's been here before, and be its final resting place until the planet ascends here in this mountain. And I thought, oh, that's probably 100 years from now. Well, no, he came back in in 2000, I think it was 13 or 14. And I came back in 2017. So there's a lot of stories around all of that, and those are on videos too. But it's not just about the specialness of this place, it's how it relates to the whole planet. The whole thing. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Thank you for sharing all of that. Well,
Most
before we
welcome.
go, I would like to share my screen. And
Okay.
a unique process that I was guided to do for all of my guests is I work with structured water. It is my life's mission to work with the waters of the planet. And so what I do is I take a little petri dish of water and I hold the petri dish and just set the intention of, in some way, that my experience while engaging with your work flow into the water to create a water crystal image. And
Yeah.
what came through for you is really cool. Let me just share my screen here. I took a picture of it after I pulled it out of the freezer. And hold on just a second. And let's see here. Here we go. Oh. Can you see that?
Yes. It looks like does it look like an animal?
Isn't that cool? I mean, I see the image of, it feels very like earthy, grounded, like it feels Native American to me.
It does. And what were you doing to get this image? I'm sorry, I missed a skip here.
I just held the petri dish of water in my hand while I was watching one of your videos.
Which video?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but I can go back and I will let you all know. I will post in the description what video I was watching and I'll let you know.
Right, because I would really be interested in knowing. That definitely looks like an animal to me, among other things.
Isn't that beautiful? Okay, I took a couple more images here.
Okay.
There's another one. I'm going to go to the next one though. There's one more.
Oh yeah. It all is very similar. It's that animal in the bushes and the trees.
Yeah. Look how, there are some very distinct patterns in that crystal. Isn't that so cool?
So how do you do this? I want to try this. How do you do this now?
All I do is I hold it. I think I watched I think it was one of your longer videos, 45 minutes. And I'm so committed to like being fully present with the water. And I just set the intention, please flow through to this water and show us some magic. And then I take it right afterwards and I stick it in the freezer.
Oh, wow. That is fabulous. I got to try that. You're saying that long. There's only a very few of them that are that long. Was it the Pyramid's Radius Matrix video, do you think?
I don't know.
Okay.
I almost looked it up, but I promise you, I will share. I will let you know. I will absolutely let you know.
That is so cool. That is so cool. And I have a gift for you. I'm going to send you something special.
Thank you.
Then you can share it. Yes.
Thank you so much. Oh, this has been so magical. I would love for you to come back on the show sometime. I mean, there's so much that we could talk about. I really appreciate your time. And I want to remind everyone that you've got your website that I will post all the links in the description, including a link to an Amazon link to your biography that you collaborated with Vera Lauren on. And it's called A Mystic's Journey Through the Stars.
Yes.
It's so beautiful.
And I will also send you just a few more links, especially my Substack. I left that off because you might enjoy that as well.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well,
I will link everything.
wonderful.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you so much for joining us. Please like, share, and subscribe. And if you would like to learn more about how I support all of my mission work, Kangen Water, please check the description.